Tonight we focused on 3 major themes in terms of making change real. Pay attention, take advantage. They should really make a difference. Enjoy. Sure. She's a former student of mine. Yes.
Said you go way back.
Yes, we do. I was her principal when she was in high school, so way back.
Oh, yeah. No, a few of our kids are the same ages, but not all of them, just her youngest set.
Very nice. Great. So you're in Boise?
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Good. I'm so glad you made it. And
I'm just mostly going to listen.
That's fine. We're so glad you made it. We really are. And it's always nice to join a network. You know, I know there are some Noahide networks, but I always think that just support, friendship support of other people on your journey is always really, really nice.
Very much.
Great. So, and Christelle joined also. Hi, Christelle. Okay, so we are discussing the idea of making real change to ourselves. And the reason why we're discussing this is because we are in the days of the Omer count. We said from the second night of Passover until the holiday of Shavuot. It's 7 weeks when the Jews, 3,300 plus years ago, walk this road of really working on themselves. Because when they left Egypt, but Egypt didn't leave them. They had a lot of the coarseness, of the very low morals of Egypt inside of them that they'd absorbed in their 210-year sojourn there. So they worked really, really, really hard on themselves for 7 weeks to be worthy, to be able to receive God's will and wisdom, to receive the Torah. And that made these 7 weeks really auspicious, really having the energy of working on yourself, to change yourself. So we discussed this last week. And of course, the homework is to do it. We spoke about a number of tips, and we spoke about the difficulty of remembering that you're going to work on yourself, and then following some of these ideas to do it. So, does anyone have anything they'd like to share? Anyone have anything they would like to share over this week of work?
I don't know if it's this week, but just in general, I've been trying to be a lot more patient with my kiddos.
Is, I think, a real, I think every mother should always be working, or is always working, is always thinking of working about that.
Oh man, that's the biggest thing. Is it's so easy to get cranky so quickly, and they're good kids, but oh man, they can push your buttons.
And a little bit of exhaustion sprinkled in, so that makes it even more easy for those triggers to go flying.
Yeah,
that's a great one. Yeah, we definitely spoke about patience last week. And I mean, I don't have a newborn. My youngest is turning 9 this week, but I definitely still struggle and work and achieve, and struggle and work and hopefully achieve a little more. And that's the journey of our life. Anyone else? Anyone was taking some of these ideas that we discussed last week to try to practically change? So I was working. I don't know. I started working on something as work, but then it's sort of not, I don't think because my work miraculously just like torpedoed to success that fast. I think just because certain things shifted So it just became, instead of like this artificial work, it became more natural work of just, changing certain things. I mean, hopefully, again, as I said last week, the challenge is remembering. And sometimes, of course, it's easy and natural, and sometimes it's not easy and not natural. And we still have to just remember what our vision of self is, what we want to be, and therefore to do the work to change and mold the most important, the most important putty in our hands, which is ourselves. And sometimes I think like, wow, there's so much I want from God, so much I bang on God's door for that I can't possibly create. But this I can. My whole long wish list, need list, must have list, I can't create that. It's in God's hands. And of course I know those are good hands and secure hands, and I know exactly the right moment the hands will open up and this will pour forth. But when you're talking about changing yourself, I think this very often, that's so silly to be struggling with it, because that is, at least in theory, something we can do. Now, obviously, like everything in life, if God doesn't want it to happen, but seemingly he's going to be our partner in helping us achieve the growth we want. And this is in our hands. This is in our hands. So anyone else had some work over this week, or some reflections on work over this week or this topic? Okay, so let's speak about another strategy. So Natalie spoke about patience. So we're talking about patience specifically, but it's really true for many other ways we want to work on ourselves. Another strategy is to take what I call the long view when you're making decisions. In other words, deliberately to refashion yourself as, in Natalie's example, a patient person. Well, she's thinking, no, I don't need to be a patient person. I just want to not lose it with my kids. But it's part of one gestalt. It's part of one total whole person. So we want to take our whole as a person and change. So part of being a patient person is not only not losing it with an annoying person or child of yours, but also being patient on the inside, for real. So being patient in terms of your life and in terms of the developments of your life, and taking time to think about the long-term impact of your decisions. Like, how will this play out 1 year from now, what I'm deciding now? How will this play out 5 years from now, what I'm deciding now? So that's like a different level of training to be patient, not just in response to frustrations, but as a general way of life, a general trait, a general pattern of behavior. A lot of times, or a different way of looking at it in terms of changing me as a person, not just I will control myself when my kids drive me crazy, but what's telling me as a person is to understand like that very often we don't have patience, and this is our culture, this is the ADD society we live in, this is the cell phone, whatever, or tablet or device society we live in, that we don't have patience with boring, undesired tasks. So we look for ways to distract ourselves, like our phones and things like that. So when you do this, what you're doing is digging yourself deeper into impatience. No, well, why is that impatience? I'm not screaming at my child. I'm not losing it with my child. It's a quality of life. It's perspective on life. It's a way of handling yourself and handling the world you're in, which also is expressed when your children are driving you crazy. But in a deeper way, it's like, if I'm a patient person, I'm going to stick with a task. I'm going to have patience for the task. And I'm not going to let myself get off task on like social media or something, because I'm impatient with what I'm dealing with. And again, that's so, unfortunately, in our society today, that's so rare, weird, strange. It just doesn't exist. But that's also, so what I mean, so Natalie was talking about patience, so we're using that model, but it's true for all of us in any of the things that we're working on. It's not just the immediate point of conflict, immediate place where I see like, oh, yeah, in this situation, my not yet refined character expresses itself and not so pretty. And it's good to deal with those immediate pieces. There's also dealing with like the deeper pieces, or trying to create myself as a person that, not just in terms of those caustic moments in life, but in general, to change myself on the inside to be that person. Like I'm saying, using the example of patience, to be patient on the inside. So I'm patient in my decision-making process. I'm patient in my view on my life. I'm patient in my non-fun tasks. I'm a patient person. So of course I'm also patient with my children. And again, this now is an example of patience. It's true for all of us, and whatever we're working on, to think of it both immediate and then like long-term, on the surface and under the surface. And we want to work on both fronts. Of course, we need to work on the, like with patience, having patience with my child who's pushing my buttons. Because if we're patient in our decision making, we're patient with monotonous tasks, but we lose it with our kids, well, that was the whole point. That was the most important reason why I'm walking this road. So we want to deal with those very important on the surface details and challenges. We also want to go deeper in ourselves and really try to refashion ourselves as a person with this virtue. Any thoughts or questions on this?
I guess a specific question would be, like you said, being distracted by our phones. Because you're right, it is totally easy, especially in the middle of mundane tasks like washing dishes. I guess my question is like, so would it be bad to be distracted, like washing dishes, by listening to like a shirim or something? Or would it be better to just like set aside time and say, I'm going to listen to the shirim, I'm going to focus on the shirim, I'm going to take notes? Or just kind of say like, well, I'm just going to fit it in when I can, and when I'm doing dishes, I don't have to concentrate on the dishes, and I'll listen and I'll go back later.
Right. So I would view, if you're washing dishes, cleaning your floors, taking a walk, and you're saying, I want to multitask and exploit the moment when my brain doesn't have to be engaged to also learn Torah, that's beautiful. You're not distracting yourself from the task at hand, you're doing the task at hand. But when you're supposed to be, I don't know, filling out forms or, whatever, doing your laundry, and you're just like, stop and just, go through your whatever, whatever's on your phone, whatever your social medias are, your Instagrams, your TikToks, your WhatsApps, your YouTubes, you're just like just literally distracting yourself, literally just escaping your reality for a few minutes. Scroll. Okay, whatever, move on. Nothing to see there anyway. That's what I mean by like distracting yourself. Like you don't have the patience of like, this is a task. It's a boring task. It's a monotonous task. It's a task I don't like. But I'm going to be patient with the task. But if you're washing your dishes and listening to Torah at the same time, you're not being impatient with the dishes. You're not stopping to do it like you don't have the nerves. You can't focus yourself. No, you're doing the dishes well. At the same time, you're utilizing the time for your mind as well as your hands. So I wouldn't view that as like a distracting yourself. Now, again, with your other question, is it better to listen as you wash dishes or to sit and listen and learn and take notes? They both have advantages, and neither negates the other. If you know the only time in your life you're going to listen is when you're doing household tasks, so go for it. If you know you could also carve out 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours to learn, do that as well. And if you do both, then find the things that are more easy listening, more like inspirational listening, or more person that's more like a speaker, and more like stories, to just like sort of give you a general inspiration. And when it's something more technical that you really want to have a mastery of the information, use that time when you're actually being the focused student for those types of classes. But if the only time you're ever going to do it is when you're washing dishes, great. You probably have lots of dishes, no problem. You use the time. It's wonderful. It's not bad. It's good. That's not impatient. That's multitasking. That's using the time. Anyone else? Any other thoughts or questions on any of this? Okay. So we were talking about this like inner character change, right? That's what we're saying here, like in the example of patience, not just I'm going to control myself and not get triggered, but I really want to change myself to be on the inside a patient person. So one way we change ourselves on the inside to be a patient person, or to be a kind person, or to be an other-centered person, or to be a compassionate person, or to be a tolerant person, or a respectful person, or a non-judgmental person, or any of those things that we want to work on, is by constantly giving ourselves the messages of that vision of self. So an underlying premise of almost all of this is I'm a person of self-control. Because whatever the details are, the window dressing is if you're going to stop allowing yourself to raise your voice, or you're going to be more honest, or you're going to be more compassionate. Those are very important details. But the underpinnings of all of it is self-control. I'm a person of self-control. I'm a person of self-worth and of self-control. I demand for myself. I live up to my demands. I have a whole vision of myself as a really powerful, strong person. It takes a lot of strength to change. It takes a lot of vision to change. It takes a lot of self-respect to change. So I want to give myself constantly those messages. Like, for example, if there's a cookie calling your name, you could say, I'm not eating it. I can't afford the calories. Say, I'm not eating it. It's so unhealthy for me. You could say, I'm not eating it because I have self-control. I'm not eating it because I'm a person of self-control. So in the end of the day, in all three situations, you're not eating the cookie. This is a happy story when you didn't eat the cookie. So you're not eating the cookie. But you're not eating the cookie, and you're also exploiting the situation to reinforce a certain vision of self. Just like I was saying before with Natalie, in terms of washing the dishes and studying Torah at the same time on her AirPods, right? On listening to something. So that's great. You're multitasking. You're exploiting the time to use it for a godly purpose. So here also, there's so many times in life when we do the right thing. We do. With difficulty, with ease, with grace, with resentment, but we do the right thing. But we want to also utilize those opportunities when we are doing the right thing to give myself a message. I'm the one listening now. Oh, of course I did it like that. I have self-control. I have self-worth. I have value. It's like talking to someone, whatever, this past weekend, she was invited to go to someone's affair. She was really interested. And, so I said to her, I go because I look at myself as I'm to use that classic Jewish word, a mensch. No great English translation for that. I'm a good person. So if I'm looking at myself as a good person, well, a good person goes when they're invited because that's a nice thing to do. And a nice person does nice things. And then the person went. I said, go for 5 minutes. Go in. Say, Mazel tov. Congratulations. Leave. You're doing what you're giving them honor and you're rejoicing in their joy. And that's all you need to do. And the person went and she was so happy she went. Why? Because a mensch does that. That's how a good person behaves. And when you envision yourself as that type of good person, you do those types of things. So very often these messages we send ourselves are like, as they say, self-fulfilling prophecies on how we're going to pay it forward in the future. So like that example I just gave, with this whatever, situation just happened this past week. Person could either say, oh, I can't be bothered, I don't dress, I don't go, I'm not interested, I don't really know the people, I'm tired, I have a headache, I'm not doing it. Or you say, okay, I guess, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. Or you could say, I'm a mensch. I'm a good person. And this is what a good person does. And therefore, I'm doing it. So not only do you do the right thing, but you're literally utilizing this tool to get yourself to do the right thing. And at the same time, look at this triple money here. At the same time, this message is penetrating inside of yourself. Yes, I am that good person. Because only that type of good person does this. And I do this because I'm that type of person. So all over, like all the time, we have opportunities to rewire how we look at ourselves. Now, it's not always so easy because, again, you have to be focused to exploit the opportunities. You have to be focused to remember, I'm the subject. I'm the putty. I'm my most important, significant work. I came into this world to refine this body, this person. This is the most important person in my life that I have to help is me. So you have to really have that focal point. But when you have that focal point, look to exploit, to utilize all the little and bigger moments of the day to keep giving yourself these amazing messages about yourself. Oh yes, I did it that way because I have self-control. I have self-dignity. I have self-respect. I'm a good person. That's why I did that, because a good person does that. I'm a calm person. I'm a patient person. I'm a person with self-control, like just all day long. Do you need to hear it all day long? Yeah, you really do. Especially if you're trying to change something that you've only ingrained in yourself for the past 35, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. So you sort of need to really saturate yourself in these other messages to make that change real. Any other examples you can think of when you have those common opportunities during your day to throw into yourself these messages? I'm a person of self-control. That's why I chose this long-term goal of whatever instead of my short-term satisfaction, right? I'm a person of self-control. That's why I went for the long-term goal of health instead of the short-term goal of the cookie. I'm a person of self-control. That's why I put the money aside instead of spending it, whatever. Can you think of other examples during your day when you can give yourself these messages? When you can reaffirm to yourself, I'm a person with self-control. That's why I chose a long-term goal. I have patience. And the more you do this, it's going to help in many, many, many situations. Because you know on the inside, you're a person of self-control. And a person with self-control reacts differently. Now, again, we were following the road of patience. What Natalie said before, it's true for everything. If you view yourself as, oh yeah, I have an anger issue, or I'm critical, or I'm lazy, or I'm a procrastinator, the more you put those labels on yourself, I mean, that's what that sort of like gives you permission to keep walking those roads. So if you reframe yourself as, oh, I'm tolerant, I'm hardworking, I'm empathetic, you're going to live up to your vision of self. So you want to, like we say about our children, you want to catch yourself when you're being good, and you want to keep affirming yourself in that direction. I behave this way because I'm empathetic. I cleaned until it was done because I'm a hard worker. So again, you are the subject. You are the most important person. Why put so much time into yourself when you've got all these kids or all these other responsibilities? Because it's like the centrifugal force. When you make that change in yourself, automatically it trickles into everyone else in your life. Obviously, they're influenced, inspired by your example, by your proving to them a person can change. You know, mommy has no patience. Guess what? She does. Or in any other situation in our life. So what else can you think of common examples in your day when you're doing the right thing and you can utilize that opportunity to keep giving yourself that message of, this is who I am? Natalie?
So I wasn't sure if that was rhetorical or not.
No. I want to hear answers.
The other one I'm thinking about lately is, I trust my husband. I don't need to nag him. Right? I trust my husband. I don't need to nag him about the finances. I don't need to nag him about his schedule. I don't need to nag him about his food. He's a grown man. He's my husband. I married him. I trust him. Shut up.
So
otherwise I would nag him like I nag the
quality
kid.
you're trying to change in yourself is trusting him more.
Making it right, because I can say it, but my actions, I was realizing I haven't been doing it. I haven't been showing it. I think it, but I wasn't doing it.
Right. So what you're saying now is, as you do the actions, the message you want to give yourself is, of course, I'm not going to ask him if he took out the garbage or just took it out the door and put it on the porch. I trust my husband. Of course, I'm not going to remind him to go shopping. We already discussed it. I already gave him the list. I trust my husband. Of course, exactly. I'm not going to see if I can, look at the credit card bills to make sure we're all in a good position. I trust my husband. So it's the actions, but the message you keep giving yourself again and again and again is, I trust my husband. I'm a person who trusts their husband, and therefore I'm behaving as per that. Yeah, perfect example. Great. And you'll have probably many opportunities all day long to do it. Yeah. And the advantage of having many opportunities all day long is change comes faster. It's just like if we work on something with our children. Well, if they trigger us all day long, that's great. We have all day long that we'll really be working on this, and therefore we will change far more quickly than if it was a rare situation, an uncommon situation, a once a week, a once a day situation. Oh no, this is all day long. Great. Perfect. Lots of opportunities to practice. That was a great answer. Anyone else can think of just in their life situations that happen enough that they really have an opportunity to try to send themselves really positive messages about themselves as they're making those good choices?
So I was going to say, taking care of myself and not pushing too hard to do things, and kind of, knowing my limitations and so on and so forth, and not just trying to push to get something done. I've had lots of opportunities in the past year or two to be like, you know what, that's not really something I can do by myself. I can wait. I can wait for my husband to get home, or I can ask my son for help, or, there are other avenues, or I can just wait, and I think it also loops back to impatience and, kind of being like, well, I don't need anybody to help me do it. I can just push through and do this on my own. But, whenever you meet physical limitations that, require you to take a step back, then you have lots of opportunities to say, this isn't something that I need to do by myself, or maybe even at all.
I think that's a great example. I know this is something you're working on because I know you've brought it up several times over the past few months. And I think the idea is perfect. you're doing it anyway, because as you're saying, it's almost like, well, no choice, I have to. But the extra layer here is giving yourself those messages. Oh, I'm not going to lift that box. I'm a person who takes care of herself. Oh, I'm not going to run up and down the stairs to schlepp these things, up and down and up and down and up and down. I respect my body's limits and I take care of myself. I take care of the body that God gave me. I'm a person who takes care of the body that God gave me. Oh, I'm going to wait for my husband to come home before we do this. I'm a person that takes care of the body that God gave me. Find a phrase that you like that sort of expresses the concept. And then each time as you sort of come bang into, nope, can't do that anymore. Nope, can't do that anymore. Nope. Instead of feeling that, nope, I can't do that, so I have to wait for my husband. I can't do that, so I have to wait for my son. I can't do that, so I just can't do it. In other words, you're walking the walk. You're taking care of your body. But in all these situations, to really reframe it in your brain, like, I'm not going to do that because I prioritize my health. I'm not going to do that because I know God wants me to guard my body. I'm not going to do that because I know that this is the body God gave me and I'm taking good care of her. So yeah, that's a perfect example. Comes up, I'm sure, often enough. And again, you're doing the right choices. But to do the right choices with this very positive about the situation mindset, not like, oh, so frustrated. Oh, this is such a pain. Okay, I can't. I guard my body. That's why I'm choosing not to. So yes, perfect example. Perfect example. And you'll probably also have many opportunities. Anyone else? Any other ideas along these lines? Things in their world that this relates to? Okay, so that's good. So we are speaking about this idea. We first spoke about this idea of working on the inner change, not just the outer change. Like we said, with patience, not just patience in terms of the triggers, but patience as a patient person, my goals and decisions for life, as a patient person, how I'm doing even tasks differently because I'm a patient person. We're speaking now about the positive messages we want to send ourselves to affirm this vision, to mold this vision, and we really are so affected by these messages. I remember so clearly. I was in a therapy session with my son, and the therapist said some comment. I don't remember what she said. Oh wow, like you're so good at this, or whatever she said, some positive comment. And I remember, like, I could really see myself responding to that comment by being even better, therapist mom. It was like interesting to watching me, how affected I was. What do I care about this lady's opinion? I don't know her. Only function I know her in is a therapist to my son. But we're just human enough to be affected up or down by other people's comments and opinions. So if we want to affect and change ourselves, and we keep giving ourselves those very positive affirmations about who we really are, we really hear it. We change. So last week we discussed a saying of our sages that we said, the outer actions create the inner reality. The outer actions create our inner world. Our inner world is molded by our outer world. Now, did anyone do anything along these lines to put this in practice over the week? The idea of making an outer change to create an inner change? Okay, so, all right, I guess nobody did. It works. I definitely can say for myself, I've done this more than once, and it's always, to me, almost like, I don't know if scary is the right word for it, but almost like, oh my God, gosh, this works so powerfully. Like, I got to do this more often, I got to push harder in this direction, because a lot of times we look at ourselves and we feel, okay, this is me. Like, to love me as I am, take me or leave me. I'm a wonderful person and I'm not perfect. So just take me with all my flaws. And it's just amazing, the sense of, I'm the prisoner, but I also hold the keys to the prison. I find myself feeling stuck. This is who I am. I'm reactive. I get angry. I'm judgmental. I'm critical. Okay, that's a lot of ugly prisons. But I also hold the keys for freedom. I really do. It's inside my own heart. It's inside my own soul. It's inside my own brain. So really understanding that you're in the prison, but you have the keys. And this enormous key to get out, to fashion a new you. Like we spoke last week about the mask and the man. Changing yourself, fashioning a beautiful mask and becoming that mask. It's really in your ability, based on the actions you're going to choose to take. Because the actions mold the inner reality. Now, obviously, you might not see the results in a week. But it works. Whenever you want to change your inner reality, remember this rule and change your outer reality. Give yourself some time. Depends how deeply ingrained, if you've been doing this bad habit for 10 years or for 60. But give yourself time and you will see you can really free yourself. You thought you were trapped forever, but you hold the escape keys. You really do. And obviously, if you have a lot of opportunities to practice, that probably means the change is going to occur much more naturally and quickly, because you're so many times changing the outer world to change the inner world. A college student once came for an audience with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and she complained to the Rebbe what was her problem, what was her issue, that she didn't have any friends. How did the Rebbe respond? He said, well, when you're in line at the cafeteria and you're filling up a tray of food for yourself, take another tray and fill it up for someone else and give it to someone else. What was the Rebbe telling her? The Rebbe was in essence telling her this idea. The Rebbe gave her a simple, in her world, doable action of a nice person, of a friendly person, of a person who has friends and is sought for to be a friend. The Rebbe didn't speak to her about, her traumas of her youth, or, what's going on inside of her, that what is she obviously doing to sabotage or reject, or the Rebbe just gave her the outer action. Walk the road, do the action of a nice, kind, friendly person. And so that doesn't change anything, so you're going to start having friends. So it's really that simple. Yeah, in essence, it really is. I spoke about patience. Commit to a simple act of patience. Now, I don't want to just get hung up on patience. It's true for anything. Of nullification, of generosity, of non-judgment. Something that you currently are not doing, or very rarely, like when there's guests around. And commit to doing it regularly. Ideally, you think of something that you can do daily, and you will see, you will change, and sometimes surprisingly fast. Like going to the idea of our children, our triggers. You could commit to the action that with that child that's driving you crazy and talking to you again and again and again, my action is going to be, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to look him lovingly in the eye as he talks to me. I'm not just wearing a mask of being patient. I'm doing the action of a very patient person. I'm committing that when I'm asked the same question again and again, by multiple children, by my coworkers, by students, I'm going to answer each one as if it was the first time. It's not just a mask. I am literally thinking of a very concrete, in my world situation, and I'm thinking how the person I want to be, not me currently, with that quality shining, like we use example of patience, how she would behave in that situation. That's what I'm doing. Well, I'm nowhere near that good, that holy, that, well, this is how you're going to change. This is how you're going to get there. So you literally are fashioning, molding, shifting the insides by on the outside committing to that action. That's the action of the type of person you're trying to be. So someone has what they could share, actions they can think of committing to that would really help them change, would really change their outer world to mold their inner world. Dixie?
Yep, I do.
Great, let's hear it.
Well, it's not with people. It's with my animals.
Great.
My horse, the colt that was born the day after Jack passed away. And it brings me, I have to concentrate on how Jack approached training horses and how he was kind, and how I have to really stop myself and never get angry with the colt. I have to remember Jack said, never get angry, just always be patient. And you have to repeat things. And it's the same way with people. I have learned that the kids that can't come to help me, they're wonderful kids, but they have their problem with the wind. The winds here have been terrible. We've never had winds in Colorado like this for months. They have went on for like 3 months, horrid winds. And the little boy that was helping me, the young man, I should say, he was so grumpy and cranky. And I turned to him and I said, do you know why you are so cranky? And he said, no, but he said, I don't want to work. I said, Cass, it's the wind. The wind is making you angry. So you have to push the wind aside and realize that the wind does bring good things. And you have to just kind of get lost in the fact that you're able to work, we're able to do this. And you have to learn that we have to overcome the things around us that are so irritating. And we have to overcome them. And so I have learned that when I start to get irritated at the horse or anything else, to step back and take a deep breath and say, it's not worth it. It's really not worth being angry, because there's really nothing to be angry about.
And you're doing those actions. It's very interesting you're mentioning this topic with the animals. I was just learning yesterday, actually with a dissertation on something from the Torah portion of yesterday. You know, the laws that, according to Jewish law, a person has obligation to feed his animals before he feeds himself.
We always did.
And the person could say, well, you know, it's like, okay, I understand. I can't be cruel. And obviously the animals have to eat, but why do I have to feed them first? And it's really part of making you that type of person. It's like the same thing. It's a very simple, regular, daily action, if you deal with animals, that changes you and makes you a compassionate person. Because
you have to realize that they cannot find for themselves. You have to give them the food. And so they are hungry. And so your first, my husband was amazing. He would be up first thing in the morning, dressed and out the door to feed the horses or the cows and everything. And this could be 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It was the thing I had to get used to. But over the years, it sticks with me because they cannot feed themselves. We have to have the compassion to take care of them first. And
and those actions are the actions that make you a person of compassion.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely. That's an action. It's a perfect, I mean, again, you're saying you do it, so we're not saying that's changing you, but I'm using the example, hijacking it for my concept here, that if a person wanted to become a compassionate person, so you have an action, and if you happen to be like Dixie and have animals to feed, you're saying, I'm going to feed the animals before I feed myself. Because that's the action of a compassionate person. And
I would always say to Jack, can we just grab a bite to eat before we go out? Because I'm starving. And he'd say, no, if you want something, get it. I'm out. And so I learned that I would grab something really quick, maybe a cookie or something. I just had to get something in my stomach to get energy. But he never did. He was the animals.
He put them first.
Yeah.
And that's the action of a compassionate person. So let's say you're not a compassionate person. You're not a compassionate person. No way. You want to sit and have a normal, good breath. The animals can wait. Like, they're not going to get sick if they eat an hour later. They're hungry. They'll be hungry for another hour. They're animals. So no. I want to change myself. I want to become that compassionate person. So I'm going to do the action of a compassionate person who has more compassion for the animals than himself, who's putting the animals first, who says, I'm hungry and the animals are hungry and okay, so we're both hungry. Let me eat. I mean, I'm the human. I'm the master. Let me eat. And then I'll feed them. They're going to get fed. They're not going to get sick. They're not being abused. They're going to get fed. But a compassionate person puts the animals first, as he would put anyone else first. I'm using the animals as an extreme example and very relevant in your world. Let's put anyone first. You know, you're hungry and someone's at your house that's hungry. I'm also hungry. The compassionate person puts the other person first. So if you, again, I'm not saying anyone per se is working on compassion, but this is just a very good model of this concept. I'm not a compassionate person, but I'm going to train myself to feed others before I eat myself. That's going to make me a compassionate person. That's a great example. Dixie, anyone else have ideas along these lines in any form of self-growth, how they can think of an action in their world that will change them on the inside?
Does organization count?
Absolutely.
So disorganized is practically both my husband and my middle names. Disheveled would be another good word. So, but we've been trying. We've been really trying. And so I think some of the little actions we just moved would be things like just put the dishes away out of the dishwasher, right? Like just find like one thing to do each day. It's like wipe down the counters, put the laundry away right out of the dryer. Like sometimes it's the one thing a day, and we're trying to get better about like, you know, all the things, meal planning the grocery list better. This week I inventoried the freezers. That was my big accomplishment. I don't think I've done it in 10 years.
It's a great accomplishment, but it's a perfect example. I love the example. The example's perfect. Again, what Natalie's saying is, I'm disorganized. So how do I change? This is how God made me. So I should just stay disorganized the rest of my life. And then you say, wait, but it's a little dysfunctional. And because I don't know what's in my freezer, don't have room for it. And I'm actually buying things that I already have and they're old and I didn't use them because I just keep buying new things of the same thing. Or the opposite is, and then I was going to make chicken for supper. Oh, there's no chicken. I went shopping yesterday. I didn't know there was no chicken when I went. So like, it's hurting me. Oh, I didn't fill out the camp forms. And by the time I remember, there was no space left in the camp. Oh, I didn't do the taxes. And then when I remembered, I had to pay all this interest. So I'm suffering by it. So it's not a functional way to live. But how do I change? And I like what she said. One action a day. One action a day of an organized person. So today was a big action that took an hour, taking inventory of my freezer. And tomorrow it's a small action of setting an alarm to remember to take the cake out of the oven. That's a very small action. That's a very big action. But they're both actions of like those really organized people. And all I'm asking myself is one action a day. I can do 10 a day also. I'm not allowed to. But every day I've got to come up with one. And I might take an action that takes an hour. I might take an action that takes 30 seconds. But every day I'm going to do what that organized person does. And bit by bit, it's going to change me on the inside. My middle name will change. It's going to change me because those outer actions mold your inner reality. It's a great example. Anyone else? I thought it was really practical. I thought what Dixie was saying was super practical. What Natalie was saying was super practical. And I hope it's sparking ideas in your head. The hard thing might be to say, well, I got a lot of things I want to change. Okay, so either you can work on multiple fronts, or you can say, no. Let's focus on one thing, master it. No, 3 weeks, a month, 3 months. We're going to do something else. It's not like when this sphere count is over, I can't do it anymore. I got the rest of my life to work on me. But figure out that 1 or 3 things you want to work on and think of that action. Or, like Natalie was saying, she doesn't have to commit herself to an action. She just has to have in her head, I've got to do such an act. I've got to do the action of a compassionate person at least once today. I've got to do the action of an organized person at least once today, if not many times. I've got to do the action of a tolerant person, the action of a patient person, the action of an other-centered person. Just kind of keep walking that walk, doing those actions, doing those actions, doing those actions, and the inner world changes. So, step 1, figure out the first thing you're going to be working on to change. Step 2, figuring out the action or the gamut of actions or the frequency of the changes. It can be 1 a day, it can be 3 times a day, it's whatever this specific situation arises, and really commit. And then step 4, figure out how you're going to remember. Because sometimes you have all these good intentions, you got it all perfectly mapped in your brain, and oops, I forgot. But you're important. You're worth it. When you were sent into this world, you were given a very big responsibility to refine self, to make self godly, to transcend the limitations of self. So this is doing core work that you're in this world to do. Core reason why you're in this world. And therefore, it's definitely worth it. So again, today, we spoke in essence about 3. We spoke last week, but for today's class, we spoke about 3 points. The idea of, in whatever change you're creating, it shouldn't just be that, like, you think of that trigger and change, but rather think of the whole person. Think of it in terms of, say, your decision making, in terms of how you use your cell phone. Just understand whatever you're trying to change is not just in that caustic or trigger or stress moment. It has many ways of impacting you as a whole person, and try to work on some of these other ways to make the change real and on the inside. The second thing we spoke about was affirming yourself, catching yourself when you're good as you're good all day long, or even tweaking it a little if you weren't so good, but that's okay. And keep giving yourself messages. I'm a person of self-control, and that's why. I'm a good person, that's why. I'm a worthy person, that's why. I'm a person with self-respect, and that's why. To keep convincing yourself of your quality of self, which is therefore going to naturally lead to making right choices. And the third general idea we spoke about today was thinking of the actions done by a person that possesses the trait you're acquiring, and commit to those actions, ideally daily, if not more. And it's the strongest road I know to create that inner change. Your outer world creates your inner world. Your outer action creates your inner reality. Strongest, fastest road to change is committing to those actions and just watch the change happen. So I hope we should all take advantage of this great time to work on ourselves, and with God's help, to see amazing, amazing, great change blossoming from inside each one of us. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Natalie, for coming on. Tell Esther I said thank you. And hope to see everyone next week. Be well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shabbat Tov.
Shavua Tov. Thank you, Dixie, for putting a timer on.
I got to remember just to put the timer on from now on.
Right? But you did it.
I did it.